Picking the right agent is important, and you want to take your time to do that, because if you shortcut the process, it could cost you more than just a heartache. Stay tuned to this episode.
The Den, powered by the Lyons Group, a show dedicated to exploring hot topics in real estate, local happenings, and industry trends. We're a small team of professionals approaching $400 million in sales and nearly 2,000 local transactions. You're listening to time-tested experts and industry leaders. Here's a refreshing look at real estate happenings and more. Welcome to The Den.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of The Den. My name is Ben Lyons. I'm your host, and today we're going to be talking about picking the right real estate broker for you. As I mentioned, you don't want to shortcut this process. But before we get into that, I want to introduce my friends, my partners, my co-hosts, the fellow members of the Lyons Group. To my left, Paul Hand Me the Rock Barry. Today, Melissa Glasgow is missing, but we want to say, Melissa Glasgow, let's go. There you go. And Aspen the Ninja Gruen. And last but not least, Shannon the Boss, Martin Martinez. Again, my name is Ben Lyons, the host of The Den, top brokers taking on tough questions. And today we're going to talk about selecting the right real estate broker for you. What should you be concerned about? Should you ask preliminary questions? Should you find out more about the real estate broker that you're going to be working with? Now, we can use these words interchangeably: realtor, broker, agent, to a large degree. And just for our audience to know, if you're licensed in New Mexico, you are a real estate broker. Now, there's a difference between an associate broker and a qualifying broker. Qualifying broker is in charge, and bless their hearts, they have a lot to worry about. But for all intent and purposes today, we're just going to talk about a realtor that you're going to work with in an everyday capacity. So let's kick it off. Paul, what are your thoughts on if you were just falling down the hill like Chris Farley in Black Sheep, I think it was, he just kind of like tumbles. And then ends up kind of standing on his feet, and he's just, hair messed up and shirt all untucked. If you were a buyer tumbling down that hill, what would you think in regard to finding an agent that's going to be able to hold your hand, help you upright? I mean, what questions would you be asking? Would you be interviewing agents? Would you be having next level conversations, or would you just pick up the first person that showed you a home and say, we're working together? Talk to me about your thoughts there.
I think the roles are reversed there. Most agents are Chris Farley falling down the hill.
Oh, that's right.
That's kind of how it feels a lot of times.
That's a good point.
If I had to do it right now, I would ask a lot of questions. I think the people that just call up, we definitely appreciate the business, but the people that just call up and use the first guy that answers the phone sometimes don't have the best experience. I think if I was going to pick an agent now, and now it's different because now we have to get into an agreement right away, and it's kind of hard to shop an agent. We haven't really seen how that's going to go yet. But if it was the good old days, I would say I would definitely have some phone interviews, figure out how people like to communicate, because I think that's one of the big things. Expectations of customers a lot of times are, I want to get updates daily, or, and if there's nothing going on, sometimes your agents don't update you.
Yeah.
I think I would pick somebody that has experience. I'm big into negotiating, so I'd ask some, questions to see how good they are at negotiating. If I'm a buyer, maybe not so much, but if I was a seller and I had a difficult property to sell, see if they've done something like that before. I don't think production is necessarily that important to me, but I think somebody you gel with, I think, is probably the most important.
Yeah, because you're almost married to them during the process to a large degree. And you bring up a good point, and I want to, get Aspen's thoughts on this, but would you be interviewing the same way if you were working with trying to find a buyer's broker versus a listing broker? Would you be going through the same process? Aspen, what are your thoughts if you were a consumer trying to find a realtor?
Yeah, I would go through the same process. And really what I would do, instead of just, calling or Googling and figuring out the first person that pops up or who has the best reviews or whatever, of course, I would look at that. But if it was my first house I was buying or my first house I was selling, if I was selling my house, if I had a good experience with the buyer's broker that I worked with, I would probably use them again. But if I was new town or didn't know who to use, or maybe did an off-market deal and didn't use a realtor, I would ask someone that I know has done a lot of business, because likely they have one realtor that they're working with. If someone has bought and sold, I would use them. And I would do the same if I was a buyer or a seller. I would probably keep the same process, I don't think I would mix it up very much.
So what you're saying is that if you are interviewing a listing realtor to list your home versus someone representing or helping you with the buying side, it's going to be the same process in your eyes.
In my eyes, yeah. I think someone who's experienced, I mean, you can say you specialize as a buyer's broker, you specialize as a seller's broker. But if we're just talking about the traditional home buying process, I think most of us are going to have a pretty good grasp buyer or seller side. I know most people start working with buyers and some people continue to stick just working with buyers or primarily buyers. But most people will eventually transition into listings more so. Not everybody, but I do think, I mean, just because I do more listings doesn't mean I don't know how to work with buyers,
Sure.
you know? So I think that I would probably go that route. And I like to stick to the same person. If I find a good car salesman, I will use that person until the end. I'm a pretty loyal person when it comes to sales jobs. You know, you want to have someone that you trust because it is a lot of trust that goes into it. I mean, it's a big purchase.
Yeah. And loyalty matters,
Mm-hmm.
right? Shannon, so shed some light on how important loyalty is. And I know the question was kind of phrased in a way of like, if this was your first time interviewing a realtor, but let's take it to the next step. Like, let's say you've worked with someone in the past. How important is loyalty in this business and how can that help you if you're a buyer or seller?
Well, obviously, to us, loyalty is very huge. But for a buyer and seller, I think that's very important too. I think, first of all, if you found somebody that you can work with, that you enjoy working with, and you are comfortable with them, stick with it. Because you don't want to start over with a new personality and try to figure out how to navigate things. As you pointed out earlier, we get almost married to these people during the course of a couple of months when we're in the middle of a transaction. And you want to know that you really have a good relationship with that person. You want to really feel like it's someone you can count on, someone that you can trust, someone that you can be open with, honest with, you know, because there's nothing worse than a buyer that doesn't feel like they can take their problems to you and they're trying to fix them on the back end. And we don't know. So we're not really helping in that process, which we might have the answers to. If it's buyer or seller, I'm with you. You'd probably want the same things. But also, I think you might have different questions. You know, if you're looking at selling, you might want to ask them about what kind of marketing do you do?
Mm-hmm.
You know, where do you market? Or, you know, do you hold open houses? What exactly do you do? Those are things that are important to know.
Mm-hmm.
They may do them. They may not. They may have reasons why they do them or why they don't. But those are good questions to ask and know that your needs are going to be met, that what you're looking for is going to be handled by that person. What goes back to Paul said, I think the most important probably thing is just finding someone that you can gel with, finding someone that you can connect with. I think some people are very business minded. Call me, let me know what the next step is. And like Paul said, you also have those ones that they want to know every day. They want a phone call from you every single day. Setting those expectations up at front and knowing that someone on the other side is going to give you that is the important thing because your needs are what's important in it. Mm-hmm. So if you have those needs, you know that you're going to be needy and you're going to need someone to call you every day, whether there's new news or not. Make sure that they're willing to do that. You don't want someone that's so busy or doesn't find that important enough to do that for you.
Yeah. Questions may be different, but the process is going to be kind of the same.
Absolutely.
And with that, I think I see this a lot with buyer clients. They are interviewing a bunch of different people and they have, I'm working with 5, 6, 10 different realtors because they think it's going to give them the better deals. But really, I think they actually end up missing out on deals because there's people that I know, they work with Ben, they work with Sam, Gabe, Darren, whoever it might be in town, David. I mean, there's so many different people that do. I just know that whenever I have something, it's listed, maybe it's been sitting, I'm going to call these people because I know they have clients that consistently work with them and maybe they can reach out to them. So I think whenever you have kind of the scatter and you're working with everybody, I think you miss out on.
I think you lack loyalty from the other perspective. Yeah. You know, I think people don't realize that. They think that if I have 3 or 4 good realtors working for me, I'm bound to not miss something and I'm going to get. But the truth is if I have an inside vein on something, I don't want to say take it to my very most loyal people first, but you know, I am definitely going to
bring it to your client group first. I think that's pretty standard.
Right. I feel like having that relationship with somebody is important. I think you're going to get, you're going to get better treatment from them.
Yeah. So you would rank that higher.
I would rank it higher
than someone being a wealth of knowledge.
If someone came in and they told me I don't work on Sundays, that is completely fine. It is not going to knock it at all. But if they're like telling me, I don't do this, I don't do this, I don't do this, maybe it's not going to be for me. And same with buyers. If they're coming in telling me I'm not going to commit to you and I'm going to work with everybody else and I'm not going to do this and this and this and this, that's fine. I'll still help you if you need help, but I'm probably not going to pursue that relationship too much more because I know what I'm going to give to a client And I want them to be committed to the processes.
Absolutely.
Yes,
It's a two-way street.
And that I was just going to say that is a wonderful point. The fact that there is a two-way street there, because not only, are you selecting a realtor, the realtor is selecting you as well. And if you're bouncing around with, 3 or 4 different realtors, and the realtor that you've spoken with gets a sense of that you're not loyal to them, then you typically drop to the bottom of their list. They're going to, farm out a new listing to their working network that are signed up with that specific realtor. So
Absolutely.
That's a great point. I think people need to understand that, because they do feel like they gain an advantage when they're trying to shop several realtors and work with several realtors at the same time. And it really is counterproductive.
Yeah. All you need is one good realtor.
Yep.
Someone that's going to roll their sleeves up. Right. So we were all new at one point. I mean, you were like a baby, I don't know, like 6 months ago, maybe. You grew up
That's why I keep the beard. I look too young when I don't have it.
So what do you say about the new realtors? Because I want to be fair to new realtors in regard to, their enthusiasm, their willingness to work.
Yeah,
About that.
I think there's a difference between enthusiasm and desperation. So a new person that comes in and they don't have a lot of business going, buyers can almost tell that they're getting a little bit desperate. They're too eager to do whatever you want them to do. So I always tell new realtors to say, work on professionalism instead of just being a yes man. Like, don't let them dictate what you do, and don't let them run you around, kind of unnecessarily. Just be the professional. Just work on that and set your boundaries early, the parameters you will or won't work in early, and then stick to those. There's always going to be stuff that you have to do that kind of outside of those, but we call them, was it Pop-Tart or pop-up realtors?
Yeah, pop-up realtors.
Pop-up realtors that say
I've been guilty.
You get a call,
yeah.
And you're going to drive hours to go out and show land out in Blanco or something like that, and way far out at the dam or something. And it may or may not do anything. We have gray showings where you just get a phone call and you immediately go out there, don't prep, just meet somebody. You just say yes. But I think if you really set up how you're going to work, I think buyers will, respect that a lot more.
I kind of disagree, actually. I think whenever you're brand new, I think you should take anything and everything, because you never know what you're going to learn on those random calls too.
Well, I think there's two.
Maybe not desperate. You don't want to never force a sale. I think that can be risky. But some of the best realtors I've worked with have been brand new agents who had a good qualifying broker or independent broker behind them and helping them do the work, to making sure it's all correct. But they do kind of drop everything and go to work for you. And I think that could be really appealing to some people, because I know now I'm not answering the phone at midnight, but I can tell you my first 2 years I sure did. Sure. You called me at midnight, I was answering that phone.
Sure.
Now
clear your throat.
Yeah.
No.
Hello.
But I'm not saying to new realtors to say no to anything. I would say yes to every job you can take. But it's how you deal in the relationship that I'm talking about.
Yeah, you don't want to.
Well, you set the tone for professionalism, I think, from the beginning.
Set the tone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the sooner you can do that. So I think you two are saying slightly different things, but in the same vein. Yeah. Aspen saying, take the business if you're new, absolutely run with it. Be the pop-up realtor if you can. And you're saying it's also good to establish some boundaries. And that was one thing I wish I would have done as a younger realtor, was be able to establish some parameters. And I think buyers and sellers respect that. When you say, look, I have family time on this day or whatever it is, you're able to create that. And the more you carve that out for yourself, the longer you're going to last in this industry.
When I did the same thing, I never said no the first couple of years. I was doing every hard deal, every deal you didn't want to do. I was the one closing them, because they're just the difficult ones.
Just for our viewers to know, that is why we call Paul Hand Me the Rock Barry, because I gave him all the hard deals. But, it's like playing football. You're on the 1 yard line. You still got to get the ball across the goal line. And Paul would roll his sleeves up and get out there, and we'd hear a bunch of grunting and whining and crying. And then all of a sudden it would be a touchdown.
That was you whining and crying.
Well, it probably was me. So, yeah.
As a new realtor, and I just told this to somebody the other day, take everything. Take the single wide that they need on a permanent foundation that it's attached to somebody else's land.
It is.
It's how you get good at the hard stuff. So when these deals come up, you go, I've already done this one. And that's why I say experience is the best thing. So if you can get the hard ones out of the way early, then all of a sudden you are the wealth of knowledge. You're working on your parameters. You know that when everybody else, and I don't know how I got to be kind of known as the manufactured guy, but I would never say no. Now I have parameters. Like, I'm not going to do all of these things because I know what will pay me and what won't, or what will be beneficial to my clients and what won't.
Yeah.
I do think that's one reason I've been like, I think my clients, I'm so accessible, almost too accessible. But if you need to get a hold of me, and I kind of am still like pop up, if you want to go see something, yeah, let's go see it. But I think I have a pretty set client base. I'm more willing to do pop-up stuff for people who I know have used me before and they're going to continue to use me. And I'm willing to kind of,
loyalty
So
pays.
loyalty pays off.
It does,
Yeah.
because I'm trying not to work so much on Sundays anymore.
Sure.
But whenever I have a client that has used me consistently for the last few years and they want to go see something on a Sunday, well, let's go see it then. So, and luckily I have a good family support system that allows that. But I do think it's important in this job to be kind of a pop-up a little bit.
Yeah,
kind of
accessible,
our job.
right?
Yeah.
So what would you, just a question for everyone, what would you rank higher, accessibility or knowledge?
Both.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good question, right? Because you want to rely on a wealth of knowledge, but you want to have a realtor that's accessible.
If you can never
right?
get a hold of them and it's 3 days later and you've missed out on a house.
And we've heard that complaint before.
Yeah, it's a problem.
Not about
Yeah.
us, but we hear that complaint. Maybe somebody calls and says, "Can I see this place? I've been working with someone, but I've been calling for a couple of days. I don't want to miss out.
Mm-hmm.
Can you go show it to me? Because your name's on the sign." Of course,
It happens pretty often.
it does.
Yeah,
it does.
I just secured a client the other day that he had sent out 8 emails. Remember this,
Mhm.
Shannon?
Yeah.
And he said, and Aspen, he talked to you too. He said, you were the only one that responded to one of the 8
yeah, because he
emails.
called our shared number
Yeah.
and I answered. He's like, "I only work with Ben." I was like, "All right,
Okay.
sounds good. Let me get you his personal
I'm
number."
the only one that responds to an email, I guess. So how important is communication then? Is that the number one factor? Is the ability to communicate with people? I mean, what you all tell me.
I think it's important if you're looking for a realtor to find someone that communicates the way you do. Like I said, everyone's got a different set of needs. Some people are a little more needy and they need more communication. Other people, very business minded, call me and let me know my next step. I entrust you to, get us to the next step. Find someone that meets your needs, because there are a lot of different personalities in this industry. Some that are willing to do anything and some that don't do much and everything in between.
Yeah.
Everything in between.
And I'm thinking about an attorney that I knew, very nice gentleman, wealth of knowledge. But gosh, just getting him on the phone for 10 minutes was arduous.
Mhm.
I mean, it was just a terrible process. And then I'm like, well, you have all this knowledge, but I'm not able to access it.
There's not a lot of value in it if you can't get it out of someone.
Yeah. So I think communication is pretty important.
Yeah, and I think on the communication side too is you want somebody that's going to be able to navigate the hurdles that come up and not be the sky is falling. You want somebody that's going to be able to handle the crisis situations well. And we always say we don't want to match energy with the clients, because sometimes something goes bad. We've got to be kind of like even keel, give good news and bad news in the same tone of voice, do the crap sandwich.
And that's kind of something that when we talk about experience, you don't necessarily have to have experience for that, to be a good listener, to be a problem solver. I've seen agents that are fairly new that just roll up their sleeves and say, "Okay, we've got an issue. Do you have any input? How can we take care of this?" Yeah. Let's put our heads together and take care of this. And that's what you really want to see. I also have seen agents that may have 20 years experience that just completely can have a meltdown whenever. And it's not to say bad things about anybody in our industry. It's just, sometimes things are really tough, and if you just don't have the ability to do that, sometimes experience doesn't matter. If you're willing to do the hard work and find the answers, then being new or not won't matter.
I'll tell you, I've never had a new realtor say, "That's not my job."
Exactly.
They will.
Exactly.
What can we do to make this work? Or
most of them will come to you and just say, "Well, what do we do next?" Or, "I've got a problem. Can we talk about it?" Because they don't have an ego yet. They're willing to learn. They want to learn. They want to draw on, they want to put their heads together with you and figure it out for their customer.
Yep.
Sometimes that gets clouded a little bit when you have a lot of experience, because people, once you know everything, where do you go
no
from
one
there?
can tell you anything.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, and you all know Lee Brown. And for our viewers, Lee Brown is a fantastic realtor. I think she's out of South Carolina. The way she breaks down complex problems and she's very eloquent with how she puts things together. But she says this often and this is an advantage for new realtors. She said you could have a realtor that's been in the business for 40 years, but they grew for 1 year and then put it on repeat for 39.
Exactly.
And that's what you're referencing right now is
Correct.
someone that has not evolved as a realtor, and they have this knowledge and whatnot, but they haven't continued to evolve as a professional.
Correct.
And so then you might as well get someone that is brand new out of the gate, that's hungry, that's ready to roll their sleeves up and not say, that's not my job. Say instead, I may not know the answer, but I will get back to you and we'll figure it out together. That was my mantra going in when I first got into the business. I was like, look, how do I compete against all of these realtors that have had decades of experience?
Right.
My thought was, I'm going to roll my sleeves up. And then also I'm going to get good at saying, I don't know the answer, but I will find out and I will get back with you.
That's one of my favorite things. And I really respect when people say that, because I know I say that, once a deal, maybe, I don't know, but I'm going to figure it out. And you figure it out and get back to you. And I think if people actually do figure it out and get back to you, I appreciate that so much than someone just spouting bull just to try and keep,
our industry
to keep the ego
try
high,
to pretend that they know everything.
Because you can
things
see through it.
change so much in our industry. So we don't always know. And I think really good brokers know that they don't know everything.
Yeah.
They know that they're always learning. They know that they're always going to ask for help.
And eventually, the people who to call and ask.
That's right.
I don't need to know everything about title.
I just have to
know
have
everything
all
about
the right
lending.
people behind me.
Yep.
Yep. And that's why I don't carry around the Texas Instrument calculator anymore.
Right.
So you don't need it.
We're going to call your lender. We're going to call your accountant. We're going to call. That's right.
That's right. Well, and let me ask this before we get into the speed round here. Is it more important to do some qualifying questions, or do you go more by feel when you're interviewing a realtor? So sometimes realtors don't realize they're being interviewed. You're just having a conversation. Should you have some pointed, qualified questions, or do you just say, I like the way that person communicates? Maybe I prompt them here or there and get a little bit more information about maybe their background or how they feel comfortable communicating. What's more important? Or should you have a combination of both?
I think it depends on what you're looking to do. I would have different questions for different people based on what I was doing. But I think for me, if I can have a good conversation with somebody, we could probably get through anything. Because I've had cold call lenders call me up and I have a 20-minute conversation. Nothing comes out of it, but I probably work with that person if the opportunity arose.
Sure.
So I think, being able to carry on a good conversation and not be salesy and all that kind of stuff, that the things that turn people off, I think that's probably the first thing to be in this industry, to be able to talk.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that, Aspen? Should you ask qualifying questions, or do you just kind of see where the conversation goes and say at the end of it, I like that person?
I think if something's important to you, you should ask the questions. I don't think you need to come in, with a list of questions you should ask your broker or whatever. But I think if something's important to you, you should ask, how long are things on the market? That kind of thing. And I always like to, whenever I ask someone a question and they tell me something I don't really want to hear, but they were honest with me, I always appreciate that, because sometimes, let's be realistic. We're all in sales. We can all sell things. That's why we're doing what we're doing. But having someone maybe say, I don't think we can sell your house for that much. And just being honest and upfront with you from the beginning. Yeah, it's a bummer, but at least they're being honest. So I have always appreciated that. So I think someone that you can trust and you just get a good gut feeling with, I think is really important, because we are in a sales job. Odds are if you talk to 20 realtors, you're probably going to like 10 of them.
Yeah, that's a great point. So you see how the conversation goes, see if you click with them, but then maybe ask some qualifying questions that you just kind of bring them into the conversation. Like, how long are homes sitting? See what their response are and go from there. Shannon, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think that was a great point, because people do hire us not to tell them what they want to hear, but to actually accomplish something for them. So I think it's important to be able to talk to somebody. And if they're telling you, sometimes they're not telling you what you want to hear, but if you think they're genuine and they have something to back it up with, then they're probably the person for you. When the person that's giving you all blue sky and, telling you everything that sounds perfect, of course, that's your initial instinct to work with that person. But how much of that is just fluff at the beginning of, really, if that's all that it is.
I tell people I'm in the business of selling houses, not listing houses. So
that's right.
I'm not going to list it 30% above market and tell you it's going to sell quickly. I'll do it if you want to, but I'm going to tell you.
But you're going to know the truth
a little bit.
I'm going to bend your ear for sure.
Just be prepared.
Yeah.
We're going to have a conversation about it. And when you're ready to come around, we'll talk again.
And for all the realtors out there that are new to the game and listening to this podcast, I ask each realtor when they're new into the game, what are you selling? in real estate? Paul, what's the answer?
Yourself.
Yourself, 100%. Clients want to understand and know that you're going to take care of their best interests, whether you have all the experience in the world or whether you're just fresh out of the gate. You want a realtor that's going to take care of your best interest. So that is absolutely key. That's the number one thing. So we're going to do a quick speed round, and then we're going to move to my favorite part of the podcast. But speed round is, what are the top 3 traits you would want in a real estate broker if you were a client? Paul, Barry, kick us off.
I think all the things we've talked about, accessible, good conversation, and somebody that you click with. I mean, I don't know if those are traits, but I think the gut feeling is my most important thing.
Let your gut guide you.
Yeah.
Yep. Aspen?
I think accessible is probably one of my top things. Knowledge would be second, and third, just who you get along with. Because if you don't like the person that's talking to you, they can be saying everything true and they can be saying everything right, and you're like just rolling your eyes annoyed at the sounds coming out of their mouth. So you do have to like who you're working with. We talk a lot, so you need to get along with them.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Shannon?
Yeah, I think it's different for everybody. So I don't think there's a set right 3 things to look for. But yeah, I think getting along with somebody and having a good relationship with them, because once that breaks down, they don't have anything to offer you. But having some, experience and knowledge and maybe a little humility at times, someone that can really work with you and is just in the deal with you. I think if you feel like you have that with someone, they're the perfect realtor for you.
Yeah, great answer. And I think for me, the top 3 traits would be honesty, accessibility. In other words, they can communicate timely. And the third thing would be that they're the steady hand, right? We're going to go into an emotional deal. We're going to try to work our way through it. And I want to be able to be in capable hands, kind of like jumping in a little Cessna with a pilot that has drank too much coffee, or jumping in a Cessna with a guy who's been, flying for a long time. Right. Mm-hmm. So, and not taking anything away from young realtors who can get out there and roll their sleeves up. I love that. We were all there at one point. Be accessible to your clients, be hardworking, communicate well, and ultimately take care of their best interests. Okay, on to my favorite part of the podcast here, which is the Lyons Pride. And we're a little short on time, but we like to acknowledge and recognize those in our community. As Lyons Group members, we go out in the community and make our area better. And we want to recognize a person, an event, a company that does the same. And welcome to the Lyons Pride. So Shannon, you're up today.
Okay. I'll make it quick, not to take away from him or anything, but I'm going to do something a little differently this time. I'm going to highlight someone in our industry.
Whoa.
It's not us.
Wow.
But we have great realtors in our industry. So I just want to say really quick, in Farmington, we're relatively a small community, and what we say really matters. And when you're a small business or you're getting going, it's very hard sometimes to reach out to the public. And sometimes we don't always use our social media for good, positive things. But one person that does, Barry Digman.
He was going to be mine, Shannon.
No. Okay, this guy never passes up an opportunity to highlight a new business, someone that does well, a do-gooder. I'm telling you, I have bought oranges from the guy at Maine and Butler because he says they're good. And I have gone to businesses because he says that they're good. And I think that we should all do more of that. I think that that's something I want to aspire to be more like Barry in that respect. Mm-hmm. I really think that, all the places that I visit during the day and I walk out and I think that was fantastic. But do I go out and I let the world know? Not always. And I appreciate so much that he does. I appreciate that he takes that out to the public and recognizes people on a daily basis. And I think that what better can we do but highlight our community when people are doing good?
Life too.
All the time. All the time.
Yeah.
And I want to say thank you because I appreciate that component of his personality. I think it's fantastic. And I want to strive to be more like him.
That is fantastic, Shannon. That is a great pick. Yeah. And Barry has deep, deep roots here in the local community. And so he's a wealth of knowledge when he starts talking about this guy planted this wisteria plant, 40 years ago.
And he's not shy about sharing it. See, a lot of us are walking around with all of those ideas and thoughts and knowledge. But how often do we go take it out to the public?
Yes.
We don't. And he does on a daily basis. And I just appreciate that he shares so much of our community with everybody.
Well, Barry, if you're listening to this or watching this, we want to tell you that we recognize you. We see you. Thank you for all that you do in our community. Thank you for being an awesome peer, helping this industry out, but also doing great things out there for us and reminding us that we're all in this boat together, right? We've all got this common thread that we want to make our communities better. So welcome to the Lyons Pride, Barry Digman. And that wraps up our podcast for today. Now, next episode, you want to stay tuned because we're going to be talking about price is a strategy and how do we navigate those waters? How do we price appropriately for the market? But if you want to reach out to anyone of the Lyons Group, go to sjcbroker.com. You can schedule your own private consultation with us. We would love to hear your input on any of the topics that we're talking about. If you want to see us talk about a topic, please reach out and let us know. We love to get feedback from our viewers. And thank you for taking the time to listen to The Den. Until next time, we'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to The Den, powered by the Lyons Group. Hit the subscribe button to keep informed on real estate happenings. If you'd like to learn more about the Lyons Group, visit sjcbroker.com. Complex markets require complex strategies. The Lyons Group can give you a true advantage in any market. Whether you're buying or selling, residential or commercial, contact us directly at sjcbroker.com. We're time-tested experts with a client-first approach, and we'll see you next time in The Den.